Florida Civic Literacy Exam Study Guide 2026. Question 1. What is the constitutional role of the Vice President of the United States within the legislative branch? Option A. Serving as the permanent Speaker of the House of Representatives. Option B. Serving as the President of the Senate, with the power to cast a vote only to break a tie. Option C. Writing the initial drafts of all federal revenue and tax bills. Option D. Directing the scheduling of all legislative floor debates in the Senate. The correct answer is option B. Serving as the President of the Senate, with the power to cast a vote only to break a tie. The Vice President is President of the Senate and normally votes only to break a tie. The Speaker leads the House, and Senate floor scheduling is handled by Senate leadership. The role gives the Vice President a limited legislative function. Question 2. Which clause of the First Amendment prevents the government from interfering with a citizen's right to practice their chosen religion? Option A. The Establishment Clause. Option B. The Free Exercise Clause. Option C. The Privileges and Immunities Clause. Option D. The Presentment Clause. The correct answer is option B. The Free Exercise Clause. The Free Exercise Clause protects religious belief and practice from unjustified government interference. The Establishment Clause bars government sponsorship of religion, while the Privileges and Immunities and Presentment Clauses address different topics. Practice of religion points to free exercise. Question 3. What is the constitutional purpose of separating the power to declare war from the power to command the military as Commander-in-Chief? Option A. To prevent the legislative branch from influencing foreign relations. Option B. To divide defense powers between the President and Congress, preventing military dictatorship. Option C. To allow individual states to veto international military engagements. Option D. To give the judicial branch supreme authority over military strategies. The correct answer is option B. To divide defense powers between the President and Congress, preventing military dictatorship. Dividing war powers prevents either Congress or the President from controlling military policy alone. Congress declares war and funds the military, while the President commands forces as Commander-in-Chief. The arrangement checks military dictatorship and preserves civilian constitutional control. Question 4. Which power is considered a concurrent power shared by both the federal government and state governments? Option A. Declaring war against foreign governments. Option B. Coining national paper money. Option C. Establishing courts and enforcing laws. Option D. Creating rules for naturalization of immigrants. The correct answer is option C. Establishing courts and enforcing laws. Establishing courts and enforcing laws can be done by both federal and state governments, making these concurrent powers. Declaring war, coining money, and naturalization rules are national powers. Concurrent powers show overlap inside federalism. Question 5. Which landmark executive action issued by President Abraham Lincoln in 1863 declared that all enslaved persons within rebellious Confederate states were free? Option A. The Gettysburg Address. Option B. The Emancipation Proclamation. Option C. The Reconstruction Act. Option D. The 10% Plan. The correct answer is option B. The Emancipation Proclamation. The Emancipation Proclamation declared enslaved people in rebelling Confederate areas free as a wartime executive action. The Gettysburg Address was a speech, and Reconstruction plans addressed post-war restoration. Lincoln's 1863 Freedom Order is the Emancipation Proclamation. Question 6. What was the purpose of the Annapolis Convention of 1786? Option A. To sign the official peace treaty ending the Revolutionary War. Option B. To discuss the commercial barriers and economic defects under the Articles of Confederation. Option C. To elect the first national Chief Justice of the United States. Option D. To coordinate the defense of coastal cities against privateers. The correct answer is option B. To discuss the commercial barriers and economic defects under the Articles of Confederation. The Annapolis Convention met to address trade barriers and economic problems under the Articles of Confederation. It did not end the Revolutionary War or elect the first Chief Justice. Its limited turnout helped lead to the Philadelphia Convention. Question 7. What is the primary role of the leadership position known as a whip within both houses of Congress? Option A. To preside over the daily legislative sessions when the Speaker is absent. Option B. To track potential votes and ensure party discipline among members on key legislation. Option C. To deliver the official response to the President's State of the Union address. Option D. To manage the physical security of the congressional office buildings. The correct answer is option B. To track potential votes and ensure party discipline among members on key legislation. A party whip counts votes, communicates leadership positions, and pressures members to support the party strategy. Presiding over sessions, giving televised responses, and securing buildings are not the whip's job. The term is about party discipline and vote management. Question 8. What percentage of individual states must ratify a proposed constitutional amendment for it to become part of the U.S. Constitution? Option A, 50%. Option B, 66%, 2/3. Option C, 75%, 3/4. Option D, 100%, unanimous. The correct answer is option C, 75%, 3/4. 3/4 of the states, or 75%, must ratify a proposed amendment for it to become part of the Constitution. 2/3 is the usual congressional proposal threshold, and unanimity is not required. This high bar protects constitutional stability. Question 9. Which amendment contains the citizenship clause that grants birthright citizenship to anyone born or naturalized in the United States? Option A, 12th Amendment. Option B, 13th Amendment. Option C, 14th Amendment. Option D, 15th Amendment. The correct answer is option C, 14th Amendment. The 14th Amendment contains the citizenship clause, granting citizenship to people born or naturalized in the United States and subject to its jurisdiction. The 13th abolished slavery, and the 15th protected voting regardless of race. Birthright citizenship points to the 14th. Question 10. Which action represents a legal obligation of a United States citizen rather than a purely voluntary civic action? Option A, organizing a neighborhood petition drive. Option B, attending a city council meeting. Option C, participating in federal jury duty when called. Option D, donating to a political action committee. The correct answer is option C, participating in federal jury duty when called. Federal jury duty is a legal obligation when a citizen is summoned. Petitioning, attending meetings, and donating to political groups are voluntary forms of civic participation. The key distinction is whether the law can require the action. Question 11. Which Enlightenment philosopher's ideas on social stability and the necessity of a social contract were modified by John Locke to include the right of revolution? Option A, Voltaire. Option B, Thomas Hobbes. Option C, Mary Wollstonecraft. Option D, Cesare Beccaria. The correct answer is option B, Thomas Hobbes. Thomas Hobbes argued that people form government to escape disorder, and Locke later adapted social contract theory to include natural rights and revolution against tyranny. Voltaire, Wollstonecraft, and Beccaria are important Enlightenment figures but not the direct social contract contrast in this question. Hobbes is the starting point for the strong government version of the theory. Question 12. Which amendment lowered the mandatory minimum voting age across the United States from 21 to 18 years old? Option A, 22nd Amendment. Option B, 24th Amendment. Option C, 25th Amendment. Option D, 26th Amendment. The correct answer is option D, 26th Amendment. The 26th Amendment lowered the voting age to 18. The 22nd limits presidential terms, the 24th bans poll taxes in federal elections, and the 25th addresses presidential disability. Voting at 18 is the 26th Amendment. Question 13. What is the minimum age required by the Constitution to serve as a member of the United States House of Representatives? Option A, 21 years old. Option B, 25 years old. Option C, 30 years old. Option D, 35 years old. The correct answer is option B, 25 years old. A representative in the House must be at least 25 years old. Senators must be 30, and presidents must be 35. Age requirements are a common FCLE detail question. Question 14. The division of Congress into two separate chambers, the House of Representatives and the Senate, is known as what? Option A, unicameralism. Option B, federalism. Option C, bicameralism. Option D, separation of powers. The correct answer is option C, bicameralism. Bicameralism means a legislature has two chambers, such as the House and Senate. Unicameralism has one chamber. Federalism divides national and state power, and separation of powers divides branches. The word itself means two-house structure. Question 15. Which governing body under the Articles of Confederation served as the entire national framework, lacking separate executive and judicial branches? Option A, the House of Burgesses. Option B, a unicameral Continental Congress. Option C, the Annapolis Convention. Option D, the Privy Council. The correct answer is option B, a unicameral Continental Congress. The Articles of Confederation created a unicameral Continental Congress as the national government, without separate executive or judicial branches. The House of Burgesses was colonial, the Annapolis Convention was a meeting, and the Privy Council was British. One House National Congress points to the Articles. Question 16. Under the Fifth Amendment, the government's power of eminent domain allows it to take private property for public use only if it provides what? Option A, a written apology from the executive branch. Option B, just compensation, fair market value, to the owner. Option C, a secondary piece of land of equal size in a federal territory. Option D, an exemption from federal income taxes for 10 years. The correct answer is option B, just compensation, fair market value, to the owner. The Takings Clause of the Fifth Amendment requires just compensation when government takes private property for public use. An apology, replacement land, or tax exemption is not the constitutional standard. Eminent domain is lawful only when tied to public use and fair payment. Question 17. Which landmark Supreme Court ruling affirmed that Congress has the exclusive constitutional power to regulate interstate commerce, voiding a state-granted steamboat monopoly? Option A, Marbury v. Madison, 1803. Option B, Gibbons v. Ogden, 1824. Option C, Plessy v. Ferguson, 1896. Option D, Schenck v. United States, 1919. The correct answer is option B, Gibbons v. Ogden, 1824. Gibbons v. Ogden held that Congress has broad power over interstate commerce and invalidated New York's steamboat monopoly. Marbury is judicial review, Plessy is segregation, and Schenck is wartime speech. Interstate commerce and steamboats point to Gibbons. Question 18. What is the constitutional term of office for a member of the United States House of Representatives? Option A, 2 years. Option B, 4 years. Option C, 6 years. Option D, 8 years. The correct answer is option A, 2 years. Members of the House of Representatives serve 2-year terms. Senators serve 6 years and presidents serve 4. Short House terms keep representatives closely accountable to voters. Question 19. What was the primary purpose of the Landmark Voting Rights Act of 1965? Option A, to lower the national voting age to 18 across all municipal contests. Option B, to eliminate discriminatory voting barriers, such as literacy tests, used against racial minorities. Option C, to establish mandatory online voter registration systems for all states. Option D, to replace the Electoral College with a national popular vote system. The correct answer is option B, to eliminate discriminatory voting barriers, such as literacy tests, used against racial minorities. The Voting Rights Act of 1965 targeted discriminatory voting practices such as literacy tests used to suppress minority voters. It did not lower the voting age, create online registration, or abolish the Electoral College. Voting barriers and federal enforcement point to the VRA. Question 20. Which ancient civilization developed the concept of a Senate as a key component of a representative republic? Option A, Ancient Egypt. Option B, the Roman Republic. Option C, Classic Athens. Option D, the Aztec Empire. The correct answer is option B, the Roman Republic. The Roman Republic developed a Senate as part of a representative republican system. Athens is linked more closely with direct democracy, while Egypt and the Aztec Empire are not the model for the U.S. Senate. Roman institutions influenced the founders' language and structure. Question 21. What type of democracy exists when citizens elect individuals to make public policy decisions on their behalf? Option A, direct democracy. Option B, representative democracy, republic. Option C, participatory democracy. Option D, autocratic democracy. The correct answer is option B, representative democracy, republic. Representative democracy, or a republic, uses elected officials to make policy on behalf of citizens. Direct democracy has citizens vote on laws themselves, and autocracy gives power to a ruler rather than the people. The key clue is electing decision-makers. Question 22. Which clause allows individuals to move freely between states without having their basic civil rights stripped away by local laws? Option A, the Privileges and Immunities Clause of Article 4. Option B, the Commerce Clause of Article I. Option C, the Necessary and Proper Clause of Article I. Option D, the Presentment Clause of Article 2. The correct answer is option A, the Privileges and Immunities Clause of Article 4. The Article 4 Privileges and Immunities Clause protects citizens traveling or moving among states from discrimination in basic civil rights. The Commerce Clause regulates interstate commerce, and the Necessary and Proper and Presentment Clauses address federal lawmaking. Interstate citizenship rights are the key clue. Question 23. Which foundational principle emphasizes that all individuals are born with inherent dignity and are entitled to equal protection under the law, regardless of their social status? Option A, elite theory of democracy. Option B, equality under the law. Option C, pluralism. Option D, divine right of kings. The correct answer is option B, equality under the law. Equality under the law means every person has inherent dignity and is entitled to the same legal protection regardless of status. Elite theory, pluralism, and divine right describe power arrangements, not equal legal treatment. This principle supports the broader democratic value of equal citizenship. Question 24. Which type of opinion is written by Supreme Court justices who agree with the majority's ultimate decision but wish to emphasize a different legal rationale? Option A, majority opinion. Option B, dissenting opinion. Option C, concurring opinion. Option D, per curiam opinion. The correct answer is option C, concurring opinion. A concurring opinion agrees with the court's judgment but uses different or additional reasoning. A dissent disagrees with the outcome, while a majority opinion controls the ruling. Concurrence means same result, different rationale. Question 25. Which committee in the House of Representatives is responsible for determining the specific rules, time limits, and amendment conditions for debating a bill on the House floor? Option A, the Appropriations Committee. Option B, the Ways and Means Committee. Option C, the Rules Committee. Option D, the Judiciary Committee. The correct answer is option C, the Rules Committee. The House Rules Committee sets the terms for floor debate, including time limits and amendment rules. Appropriations handles spending, Ways and Means handles taxes, and Judiciary handles legal and judicial matters. Control over debate rules points to the Rules Committee. Question 26. Which amendment ensures that any expansion of federal authority must be tied to an explicit or implied power, protecting local state control? Option A, Second Amendment. Option B, Fifth Amendment. Option C, 10th Amendment. Option D, 14th Amendment. The correct answer is option C, 10th Amendment. The 10th Amendment reinforces that federal authority must come from an expressed or implied constitutional power, leaving remaining powers to states or the people. The Second and Fifth Amendments protect specific rights, while the 14th limits states through citizenship, due process, and equal protection. Local control and reserved powers point to the 10th. Question 27. Which amendment prohibits Congress from voting itself a pay raise that takes effect before the next intervention of an election of representatives? Option A, 25th Amendment. Option B, 26th Amendment. Option C, 22nd Amendment. Option D, 27th Amendment. The correct answer is option D, 27th Amendment. The 27th Amendment delays congressional pay raises until after an intervening House election. The 25th handles succession, the 26th voting age, and the 22nd presidential terms. Congressional pay timing points to the 27th. Question 28. What does the concept of majority rule with minority rights mean in practice? Option A. The political majority can pass any law it wishes, regardless of its impact on minorities. Option B. Decisions are made by majority vote, but the fundamental rights of the minority must always be legally protected. Option C. Minority groups have the power to completely block any majority vote from occurring. Option D. Elections are valid only if a minority candidate wins at least half of the open legislative seats. The correct answer is option B. Decisions are made by majority vote, but the fundamental rights of the minority must always be legally protected. Majority rule with minority rights means elections and votes decide policy, but basic rights remain protected for those who lose. It does not permit unlimited majority power or give minorities a total veto. Constitutional rights keep democracy from becoming simple mob rule. Question 29. Who acts as the official leader of the Senate when the Vice President of the United States is absent from the chamber? Option A. The Speaker of the Senate. Option B. The President pro tempore. Option C. The Secretary of the Senate. Option D. The Majority Leader. The correct answer is option B. The President pro tempore. The President pro tempore presides over the Senate when the Vice President is absent, though day-to-day duties are often delegated. The Majority Leader is politically powerful but is not the constitutional presiding officer. The title literally means for the time being. Question 30. What executive official serves as the head of the Department of Justice and the chief law enforcement officer of the federal government? Option A. The Secretary of State. Option B. The Chief Justice of the United States. Option C. The Attorney General. Option D. The Director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. The correct answer is option C. The Attorney General. The Attorney General heads the Department of Justice and is the chief law enforcement officer of the federal government. The Secretary of State handles diplomacy, the Chief Justice leads the Supreme Court, and the FBI Director heads a bureau within justice. Federal legal enforcement points to the Attorney General. Question 31. In Federalist No. 10, James Madison argued that the mischiefs of factions could be best controlled by what type of governance structure? Option A. A small, direct democracy with highly localized assemblies. Option B. A large representative republic that prevents any single faction from easily dominating. Option C. A strong, absolute military dictatorship that suppresses political debate. Option D. A A confederal system that gives individual states absolute veto power over all national laws. The correct answer is option B, a large representative republic that prevents any single faction from easily dominating. Federalist number 10 argues that a large republic controls factions by multiplying interests and making domination by one faction harder. A small direct democracy would be more vulnerable to majority passion, and dictatorship would destroy liberty. Madison's answer to faction was representation across an extended republic. Question 32. What occurs during the process known as gerrymandering? Option A. The executive branch redistributes funds from independent federal regulatory agencies. Option B. Legislative district boundaries are redrawn to favor a specific political party or group. Option C. The Supreme Court consolidates multiple civil rights lawsuits into a single landmark case. Option D. State governors appoint family members to vacant congressional seats. The correct answer is option B. Legislative district boundaries are redrawn to favor a specific political party or group. Gerrymandering occurs when district lines are drawn to benefit a party, group, or incumbent. It is not a budget transfer, Supreme Court consolidation, or nepotistic appointment. The term always points to manipulated electoral district boundaries. Question 33. In Boy Scouts of America v. Dale, 2000, the Supreme Court ruled that a private organization has a First Amendment right to exclude individuals based on its values under what doctrine? Option A. Freedom of the press. Option B. Freedom of expressive association. Option C. The Free Exercise Clause. Option D. The right to privacy. The correct answer is option B, freedom of expressive association. Boy Scouts of America v. Dale recognized freedom of expressive association, allowing a private organization to exclude someone when inclusion would affect its message. It was not mainly a due process, commerce, or establishment case. Private group values and association point to Dale. Question 34. What type of power is explicitly written down in the text of the Constitution for a specific branch of government? Option A. Implied power. Option B. Expressed, or enumerated, power. Option C. Inherent power. Option D. Reserved power. The correct answer is option B. Expressed, or enumerated, power. Expressed or enumerated powers are powers written directly into the Constitution. Implied powers are derived from written powers, inherent powers come from national sovereignty, and reserved powers belong to states or the people. The phrase explicitly written down points to enumerated power. Question 35. What constitutional clause states that federal judicial power extends to all cases arising under the Constitution and federal laws? Option A. The jurisdictional vesting clause of Article 3. Option B. The supremacy clause of Article 6. Option C. The full faith and credit clause of Article 4. Option D. The implied powers clause of Article I. The correct answer is option A. The jurisdictional vesting clause of Article 3. Article III's jurisdictional language extends federal judicial power to cases arising under the Constitution, federal law, and treaties. The Supremacy Clause ranks law, full faith and credit governs interstate recognition, and implied powers concern Congress. Cases arising under federal law are Article 3 jurisdiction. Question 36. Which Supreme Court ruling dealt with the standard for police stop and frisk procedures, requiring officers to have reasonable suspicion before a brief detention and pat-down? Option A. Mapp v. Ohio, 1961. Option B. Miranda v. Arizona, 1966. Option C. Terry v. Ohio, 1968. Option D. Gideon v. Wainwright, 1963. The correct answer is option C. Terry v. Ohio, 1968. Terry v. Ohio allows brief stop-and-frisk encounters when officers have reasonable suspicion of criminal activity and danger. Mapp excludes illegally obtained evidence, Miranda requires warnings, and Gideon provides counsel. Reasonable suspicion for a pat-down points to Terry. Question 37. Which principle prevents the federal government from establishing an official national religion that all citizens must follow? Option A. The Free Exercise Clause. Option B. The Establishment Clause. Option C. The Supremacy Clause. Option D. The Full Faith and Credit Clause. The correct answer is option B. The Establishment Clause. The Establishment Clause bars government from creating or endorsing an official national religion. The Free Exercise Clause protects religious practice, while the Supremacy and Full Faith and Credit Clauses address federal law and state records. Establishment is the key term for government-sponsored religion. Question 38. Which landmark pieces of legislation passed in 1965 established the federal regulatory framework for matching grant assistance to low-income and elderly healthcare systems? Option A. The Public Health Service Act. Option B. The Social Security Amendments of 1965, Medicare and Medicaid. Option C. The Federal Insurance Contributions Act. Option D. The Health Equity Act. The correct answer is option B. The Social Security Amendments of 1965, Medicare and Medicaid. The Social Security Amendments of 1965 created Medicare and Medicaid, the federal health insurance programs for elderly and low-income Americans. The original Social Security Act created retirement and unemployment programs but not those health systems. Medicare plus Medicaid points to the 1965 amendments. Question 39. What did the Supreme Court rule in Abington School District v. Skemp, 1963, regarding Bible readings in public schools? Option A. School districts can require daily Bible readings if students are allowed to opt out. Option B. Sanctioned. Corporate Bible reading and Lord's Prayer recitations in public schools violate the Establishment Clause. Option C. Bible studies are permitted only if conducted by certified civilian history instructors. Option D. State funding must be withheld from schools that refuse to display religious symbols. The correct answer is option B. Sanctioned. Corporate Bible reading and Lord's Prayer recitations in public schools violate the Establishment Clause. Abington School District v. Skemp struck down school-sponsored Bible readings and Lord's Prayer recitations under the Establishment Clause. Angle involved school prayer, and Abington extended the principle to devotional Bible readings. State-sponsored religious exercises in public school are establishment problems. Question 40. What occurs when a bill is pigeonholed by a congressional committee chairperson? Option A. It is immediately brought to the floor for an emergency vote. Option B. It is set aside and ignored, effectively killing the bill within the committee. Option C. It is sent directly to the president for an advisory signature. Option D. It is amended to include funds for state educational initiatives. The correct answer is option B. It is set aside and ignored, effectively killing the bill within the committee. Pigeonholing occurs when a committee chair sets a bill aside and prevents it from advancing, effectively killing it. It is not emergency floor action, presidential referral, or an education funding amendment. Committees can shape legislation by refusing to act. Question 41. The prohibition against cruel and unusual punishments is found within which constitutional amendment? Option A. Fifth Amendment. Option B. Sixth Amendment. Option C. Eighth Amendment. Option D. Ninth Amendment. The correct answer is option C. Eighth Amendment. The Eighth Amendment prohibits cruel and unusual punishments and excessive bail or fines. The Fifth and Sixth address criminal procedure before punishment, while the Ninth protects enumerated rights. Punishment severity is the Eighth Amendment Q. Question 42. A citizen cannot be forced to testify against themselves in a criminal trial due to protections found in which amendment? Option A. Fourth Amendment. Option B. Fifth Amendment. Option C. Sixth Amendment. Option D. Eighth Amendment. The correct answer is option B. Fifth Amendment. The Fifth Amendment protects against compelled self-incrimination in criminal cases. The Fourth protects against unreasonable searches, the Sixth protects trial rights, and the Eighth limits punishments. The phrase pleading the Fifth comes from this protection. Question 43. Which foundational document argued that a single, energetic executive is essential to protecting the nation against foreign attacks and ensuring steady administration of laws? Option A. Federalist No. 10. Option B. Federalist No. 51. Option C. Federalist No. 70. Option D. Federalist No. 78. The correct answer is option C. Federalist No. 70. Federalist No. 70 argues for an energetic, unitary executive to provide steady administration, secrecy, dispatch, and accountability. Federalist No. 10 concerns factions, No. 51 checks and balances, and No. 78 the judiciary. A strong single executive points to No. 70. Question 44. What type of power is the federal government's ability to acquire new geographic territories, which is not explicitly stated but stems from national sovereignty? Option A. Enumerated power. Option B. Reserved power. Option C. Inherent power. Option D. Concurrent power. The correct answer is option C. Inherent power. Acquiring territory is an inherent power tied to national sovereignty, even though it is not expressly listed in the Constitution. Enumerated powers are written, reserved powers belong to states, and concurrent powers are shared. The Louisiana Purchase is the classic example of this idea. Question 45. In Hazelwood School District v. Kohlmeyer, 1988, the Supreme Court ruled that public school administrators can censor student-run school newspapers under what condition? Option A. Only if the newspaper articles contain explicit state-level criminal secrets. Option B. If the censorship is reasonably related to legitimate pedagogical concerns. Option C. Only if the students are compensated with academic course credit. Option D. If the school board votes unanimously to approve the censorship action. The correct answer is option B. If the censorship is reasonably related to legitimate pedagogical concerns. Hazelwood allows public school officials to regulate school-sponsored student newspapers when the action is reasonably related to legitimate educational concerns. Tinker protects independent student expression more strongly, but Hazelwood deals with school-sponsored speech. The clue is a student-run school newspaper under school supervision. Question 46. What was the core argument made by the Anti-Federalists against the ratification of the United States Constitution? Option A. The proposed Constitution did not give the national military enough domestic policing power. Option B. The strong central government would threaten individual liberties and state sovereignty without a clear Bill of Rights. Option C. The legislative branch was too weak to pass effective national infrastructure bills. Option D. The judicial branch was selected by the public rather than through executive appointment. The correct answer is option B. The strong central government would threaten individual liberties and state sovereignty without a clear Bill of Rights. Anti-Federalists feared the proposed Constitution gave too much power to the national government and lacked explicit protections for individual rights. They were not mainly asking for stronger military power or weaker legislative authority. Their pressure produced the Bill of Rights. Question 47. What is an example of an executive check on the power of the legislative branch? Option A. The power to declare a congressional act unconstitutional. Option B. The power to veto a bill passed by both houses of Congress. Option C. The power to refuse to fund a federal agency approved by the Senate. Option D. The power to remove a senator from office for ethical violations. The correct answer is option B. The power to veto a bill passed by both houses of Congress. The president's veto is an executive check on Congress because it blocks a bill from becoming law unless Congress overrides it. Courts declare laws unconstitutional, and Congress controls funding through legislation. The veto is the president's direct lawmaking check. Question 48. What does the Ninth Amendment state regarding the rights of the people? Option A. The enumeration of certain rights in the Constitution does not mean other rights do not exist or are denied to the people. Option B. Individual citizens must register all personal firearms with the federal government. Option C. Citizens cannot be forced to quarter soldiers during times of domestic peace. Option D. All criminal trials must occur within the specific state where the crime took place. The correct answer is option A. The enumeration of certain rights in the Constitution does not mean other rights do not exist or are denied to the people. The Ninth Amendment says listing certain rights in the Constitution does not deny other rights retained by the people. It is not about guns, quartering soldiers, or trial location. The amendment protects the idea that rights are broader than the written list. Question 49. What historical Roman Republic concept heavily influenced the American founders' emphasis on civic virtue and the public good? Option A. Direct participation in tribal assemblies. Option B. Republicanism and citizen representation. Option C. The absolute judicial authority of the emperor. Option D. The use of military tribunals for all civil suits. The correct answer is option B. Republicanism and citizen representation. Republicanism in the Roman tradition emphasized elected representation, civic virtue, and service to the public good. Tribal assemblies, emperors, and military tribunals do not capture the founders' model of representative self-government. Roman republican ideas helped shape the American preference for a republic over monarchy. Question 50. What is the ultimate source of authority for all legal and political actions taken by the United States federal government? Option A. The Declaration of Independence. Option B. The United States Constitution. Option C. The Magna Carta. Option D. The current president's platform. The correct answer is option B. The United States Constitution. The U.S. Constitution is the supreme legal source for federal power and limits. The Declaration explains founding principles, the Magna Carta influenced constitutionalism, and a president's platform has no independent legal supremacy. Federal officials must trace their authority to the Constitution. Question 51. What type of congressional committee is created for a specific, temporary purpose, such as investigating a unique national crisis or scandal? Option A. Standing Committee. Option B. Joint Committee. Option C. Select, or Special, Committee. Option D. Conference Committee. The correct answer is option C. Select, or Special, Committee. A select or special committee is created for a temporary, specific purpose such as investigating a crisis or scandal. Standing committees are permanent, joint committees include both chambers, and conference committees reconcile bills. Temporary investigation is the select committee clue. Question 52. Which document served as the first written Constitution of the United States but was eventually replaced due to its creation of a weak central government? Option A. The Declaration of Independence. Option B. The Articles of Confederation. Option C. The Federalist Papers. Option D. The Northwest Ordinance. The correct answer is option B. The Articles of Confederation. The Articles of Confederation were the first written national constitution of the United States and created a weak central government. The Declaration announced independence, the Federalist Papers defended the later Constitution, and the Northwest Ordinance governed Western Territory. Weak national authority is the Article's clue. Question 53. What is the fundamental basis for civil liberties in the United States political system? Option A. They are granted to citizens as rewards for outstanding public service. Option B. They are natural rights protected against government overreach by constitutional amendments. Option C. They are conditional privileges that expire during every federal election cycle. Option D. They are dictated entirely by the individual preferences of local police forces. The correct answer is option B. They are natural rights protected against government overreach by constitutional amendments. Civil liberties are rights protected against government overreach, many of them rooted in natural rights theory and secured by constitutional amendments. They are not rewards, temporary election cycle privileges, or police preferences. The Bill of Rights is the main study anchor for civil liberties. Question 54. Which case established that public figures must prove actual malice, that a statement was made with knowledge that it was false or with reckless disregard for the truth to win a libel suit? Option A. Hazelwood v. Kohlmeyer, 1988. Option B. New York Times Company v. Sullivan, 1964. Option C. Texas v. Johnson, 1989. Option D. Schenck v. United States, 1919. The correct answer is option B. New York Times Company v. Sullivan, 1964. New York Times Company v. Sullivan created the actual malice standard for public officials and later public figures in defamation suits. It protects robust debate about public affairs by making libel claims harder for powerful plaintiffs. Actual malice means knowledge of falsity or reckless disregard for truth. Question 55. The constitutional protection against double jeopardy means what? Option A. A person cannot be tried twice for the exact same crime after being acquitted. Option B. A defendant cannot be sued in civil court if they were found guilty in criminal court. Option C. A law cannot carry both a financial fine and a period of physical imprisonment. Option D. An individual cannot be investigated by two different federal agencies at the same time. The correct answer is option A. A person cannot be tried twice for the exact same crime after being acquitted. Double jeopardy prevents a person from being tried again for the same offense after acquittal or conviction. Civil suits, combined punishments, and multiple agency investigations are separate issues. The protection appears in the Fifth Amendment. Question 56. What type of jurisdiction allows a court to hear a case for the first time, establishing the initial factual record and legal arguments? Option A. Appellate jurisdiction. Option B. Original jurisdiction. Option C. Concurrent jurisdiction. Option D. Maritime jurisdiction. The correct answer is option B. Original jurisdiction. Original jurisdiction means a court hears a case first and develops the initial record. Appellate jurisdiction reviews decisions already made, and concurrent jurisdiction means more than one court system may hear a case. First hearing equals original jurisdiction. Question 57. The historical phrase, "no taxation without representation," directly challenged what political practice of the British Parliament? Option A. Levying internal taxes on the American colonies without giving them voting seats in Parliament. Option B. Requiring the colonies to build their own local merchant shipping vessels. Option C. Forbidding the colonies from printing their own municipal paper currency. Option D. Forcing colonial assemblies to appoint their own local judicial magistrates. The correct answer is option A. Levying internal taxes on the American colonies without giving them voting seats in Parliament. No taxation without representation objected to Parliament taxing colonists who had no voting representatives in that body. Shipping rules, colonial currency, and local magistrates were separate imperial issues. The slogan connects taxation to political consent. Question 58. In Pierce v. Society of Sisters, 1925, the Supreme Court struck down a state law requiring all children to attend public schools, affirming what right? Option A. The state's power to standardize historical education. Option B. The constitutional right of parents to send their children to private or parochial schools. Option C. The absolute separation of church and educational policy. Option D. The commercial immunity of nonprofit entities. The correct answer is option B. The constitutional right of parents to send their children to private or parochial schools. Pierce v. Society of Sisters affirmed parents' liberty to choose private or parochial education rather than being forced into public schools only. Meyer protected a related parental education right involving foreign language instruction. Mandatory public school-only laws point to Pierce. Question 59. What is the purpose of a conference committee in the United States Congress? Option A. To conduct public oversight hearings regarding executive department spending. Option B. To resolve differences between different versions of a bill passed by the House and the Senate. Option C. To choose the majority and minority leadership positions at the start of a session. Option D. To interview potential nominees for vacant federal judge positions. The correct answer is option B. To resolve differences between different versions of a bill passed by the House and the Senate. A conference committee reconciles differences between House and Senate versions of the same bill. Oversight hearings, leadership selection, and nominee interviews are different congressional functions. The goal is one final identical bill for both chambers. Question 60. Which system of economy is most closely aligned with the American democratic emphasis on individual liberty and limited government intervention? Option A. Command economy. Option B. Traditional barter economy. Option C. Market economy, capitalism. Option D. State-directed mercantilism. The correct answer is option C. Market economy, capitalism. A market economy uses private choice, competition, and limited government direction, matching the American emphasis on economic liberty. A command economy places production under state control, and traditional barter lacks modern market institutions. Capitalism is the economic system most associated with private property and voluntary exchange. Question 61. Which of the following is considered a primary civic responsibility of United States citizens, rather than a mandatory legal obligation? Option A. Serving on a federal or state jury when summoned. Option B. Paying all assessed local, state, and federal taxes. Option C. Voting in local, state, and national elections. Option D. Registering for the Selective Service System upon turning 18. The correct answer is option C. Voting in local, state, and national elections. Voting is a civic responsibility because citizens are expected to participate, but the law generally does not force them to vote. Jury service, taxes, and selective service registration are legal obligations when applicable. FCLE questions often separate voluntary civic duties from mandatory legal duties. Question 62. What does a writ of certiorari issued by the United States Supreme Court signify? Option A. A direct order releasing a prisoner from an illegal confinement. Option B. An official announcement that the court will review a case from a lower court. Option C. A declaration that a federal law has been completely overturned without oral arguments. Option D. A formal reprimand of an executive branch official by the Chief Justice. The correct answer is option B. An official announcement that the court will review a case from a lower court. A writ of certiorari means the Supreme Court has agreed to review a lower court case. Habeas corpus challenges detention, and certiorari is not itself a merits decision overturning a law. Certiorari is about granting review, not deciding the case. Question 63. Which political philosopher's concept of natural rights, specifically life, liberty, and property, heavily influenced the writing of the Declaration of Independence? Option A. Thomas Hobbes. Option B. John Locke. Option C. Jean-Jacques Rousseau. Option D. Baron de Montesquieu. The correct answer is option B. John Locke. John Locke's theory of natural rights taught that people possess life, liberty, and property before government exists. Hobbes emphasized strong sovereign control, Rousseau stressed the general will, and Montesquieu is tied to separation of powers rather than the Declaration's rights language. For FCLE, connect Locke with natural rights and the Declaration's claim that rights are unalienable. Question 64. Which characteristic of ancient Athenian governance is most closely mirrored by modern American democratic practices like state-level referendums? Option A. Representative republicanism. Option B. Direct democracy. Option C. Oligarchical council rule. Option D. Hereditary monarchical rule. The correct answer is option B. Direct democracy. Direct democracy occurs when citizens vote directly on policy questions, as with many referendums and initiatives. Representative republicanism involves elected officials making decisions, while oligarchy and monarchy place power in a few hands or a hereditary ruler. Ancient Athens is the classic model for direct citizen decision-making. Question 65. What did the Supreme Court rule in Wisconsin v. Yoder, 1972, regarding compulsory school attendance laws? Option A. States can force all children to attend public high schools regardless of religious objections. Option B. The Free Exercise Clause prevents states from forcing Amish children to attend school beyond the 8th grade. Option C. Public school curricula must include mandatory religious education options. Option D. Homeschooling programs must be funded entirely by local tax assessments. The correct answer is option B. The Free Exercise Clause prevents states from forcing Amish children to attend school beyond the 8th grade. Wisconsin v. Yoder protected Amish families from compulsory school attendance beyond the 8th grade under the Free Exercise Clause. The case balanced religious liberty against state education requirements. Amish schooling and compulsory attendance point to Yoder. Question 66. The Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA, of 1990 requires public accommodations and employers to provide what for individuals with disabilities? Option A, direct financial stipends from the state treasury. Option B, reasonable accommodations and accessible public facilities. Option C, free public transportation passes for life. Option D, guaranteed employment positions within local government offices. The correct answer is option B, reasonable accommodations and accessible public facilities. The ADA requires reasonable accommodations and accessible facilities for qualified individuals with disabilities. It does not guarantee lifetime transit passes, stipends, or automatic public jobs. The key legal standard is accessibility and reasonable accommodation. Question 67. What did the Supreme Court rule in United States v. Lopez, 1995, regarding the scope of congressional power? Option A, Congress has absolute authority to regulate any action that involves firearms. Option B, the Gun-Free School Zones Act exceeded Congress's authority under the Commerce Clause because carrying a gun in a school zone is not an economic activity. Option C, state laws banning firearms in public parks violate the Supremacy Clause. Option D, the federal government can use highway funds to force states to change local penal codes. The correct answer is option B, the Gun-Free School Zones Act exceeded Congress's authority under the Commerce Clause because carrying a gun in a school zone is not an economic activity. United States v. Lopez limited Congress's Commerce Clause power by holding that possessing a gun in a school zone was not economic activity sufficiently tied to interstate commerce. The case rejected an unlimited view of federal commerce power. It is a key modern example of limits on congressional authority. Question 68. Which branch of government has the ultimate authority to interpret laws and determine their constitutionality through judicial review? Option A, legislative branch. Option B, executive branch. Option C, judicial branch. Option D, electoral branch. The correct answer is option C, judicial branch. The judicial branch interprets laws and uses judicial review to determine whether government action violates the Constitution. Congress writes statutes and the President executes them. Constitutional interpretation in cases belongs to courts. Question 69. In Everson v. Board of Education, 1947, the Supreme Court incorporated which clause of the First Amendment to the states, while upholding a program reimbursing bus fares for parochial school students? Option A, the Free Exercise Clause. Option B, the Establishment Clause. Option C, the Speech Clause. Option D, the Assembly Clause. The correct answer is option B, the Establishment Clause. Everson incorporated the Establishment Clause against the states while upholding reimbursement for bus transportation to parochial schools. Free exercise protects religious practice, but Everson's major incorporation point is establishment. State aid and church-state separation point to Everson. Question 70. What constitutional mechanism allows Congress to pass a law over a presidential veto? Option A, a simple majority vote in both chambers. Option B, a two-thirds override vote in both the House and the Senate. Option C, an appeal to the Supreme Court for an immediate ruling. Option D, a referendum vote by 3/4 of the state governors. The correct answer is option B, a two-thirds override vote in both the House and the Senate. Congress can override a presidential veto with a two-thirds vote in both the House and Senate. A simple majority is not enough, and courts or governors do not override vetoes. The high threshold preserves the veto while allowing strong legislative consensus to prevail. Question 71. The full faith and credit clause in Article 4 of the Constitution requires states to do what? Option A, honor the public acts, records, and judicial proceedings of other states. Option B, maintain identical tax rates on all commercial corporate assets. Option C, allow out-of-state residents to vote in local gubernatorial elections. Option D, accept the paper currency printed by neighboring state treasuries. The correct answer is option A, honor the public acts, records, and judicial proceedings of other states. Full faith and credit requires states to honor other states' public acts, records, and judicial proceedings. It does not force identical taxes, out-of-state voting rights, or state-issued currencies. The clause helps legal judgments and records travel across state lines. Question 72. What type of brief can be filed by an outside individual or interest group that is not a direct party to a lawsuit but wishes to provide legal arguments to the Supreme Court? Option A, writ of habeas corpus. Option B, amicus curiae brief. Option C, executive position paper. Option D, declaratory injunction. The correct answer is option B, amicus curiae brief. An amicus curiae brief is filed by a non parte who offers legal arguments or expertise to a court. Habeas corpus challenges detention, and injunctions are court orders. The phrase means friend of the court. Question 73. The concept of due process of law is designed to protect citizens against what type of government action? Option A. The passage of revenue bills by a bicameral legislature. Option B. Arbitrary or unfair deprivation of life, liberty, or property. Option C. The negotiation of bilateral trade agreements by the executive branch. Option D. The appointment of federal judges by an elected executive. The correct answer is option B. Arbitrary or unfair deprivation of life, liberty, or property. Due process protects people from arbitrary or unfair government deprivation of life, liberty, or property. It is not about revenue bills, trade agreements, or judicial control of amendments. The concept requires fair procedures before government may take major action against a person. Question 74. What fundamental principle ensures that the military remains subordinate to the civilian government in the United States? Option A. The Joint Chiefs of Staff are elected directly by the public. Option B. The President, a civilian official, serves as the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces. Option C. Congress cannot authorize defense spending for more than 6 months at a time. Option D. Individual states command their own independent nuclear arsenals. The correct answer is option B. The President, a civilian official, serves as the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces. Civilian control of the military is preserved because the President, an elected civilian officer, is Commander-in-Chief. The military is not elected directly, and states do not control independent nuclear arsenals. The principle prevents armed forces from becoming a separate political authority. Question 75. What does the Supremacy Clause located in Article 6 of the United States Constitution explicitly establish? Option A. State constitutions take precedence over federal statutes during local emergencies. Option B. The U.S. Constitution, federal laws, and treaties constitute the supreme law of the land. Option C. The President has supreme authority over all legislative budget allocations. Option D. The House of Representatives has the ultimate power to interpret constitutional amendments. The correct answer is option B. The U.S. Constitution, federal laws, and treaties constitute the supreme law of the land. The Supremacy Clause makes the Constitution, federal laws, and treaties the supreme law of the land. State constitutions cannot override valid federal law, and the clause does not give supremacy to the President or the House. It is the constitutional basis for federal law prevailing over conflicting state law. Question 76. Which piece of landmark legislation created the federal framework for safe working conditions, establishing a national enforcement agency for workplace health? Option A. The Fair Labor Standards Act of 1938. Option B. The Occupational Safety and Health Act, OSHA, of 1970. Option C. The National Labor Relations Act of 1935. Option D. The Social Security Act of 1935. The correct answer is option B. The Occupational Safety and Health Act, OSHA, of 1970. OSHA created the federal framework for workplace safety and health standards. Civil rights, environmental, or education laws do not establish the main workplace safety agency. Safe working conditions point to the Occupational Safety and Health Act. Question 77. What is the term length for an individual who serves on the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System? Option A. 4 years. Option B. 6 years. Option C. 10 years. Option D. 14 years. The correct answer is option D. 14 years. Members of the Federal Reserve Board of Governors serve 14-year terms. The long term is designed to insulate monetary policy from short-term political pressure. 4, 6, and 10 years are not the statutory board term. Question 78. Which founding document contains the famous opening phrase, "We the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union"? Option A. The Declaration of Independence. Option B. The Articles of Confederation. Option C. The United States Constitution. Option D. The Bill of Rights. The correct answer is option C. The United States Constitution. The Constitution opens with "We the people" and establishes the framework of the federal government. The Declaration begins with a justification for independence. The Articles were the earlier national charter, and the Bill of Rights is a set of amendments. The quoted preamble language belongs to the Constitution. Question 79. What does the Constitution require the federal government to guarantee to every state in the Union under Article 4, Section 4? Option A. A balanced annual fiscal budget. Option B. A Republican form of government. Option C. A state-funded public university system. Option D. An equal number of military installations. The correct answer is option B. A Republican form of government. Article 4 requires the United States to guarantee every state a republican form of government. It does not require balanced budgets, public universities, or equal military bases. This is known as the Guarantee Clause. Question 80. In West Virginia State Board of Education v. Barnett, 1943, the Supreme Court ruled that public schools cannot force students to salute the American flag based on what principle? Option A. The Free Exercise Clause protection against forced patriotic rituals that violate religious conscience. Option B. The right to privacy implied within the Third Amendment text. Option C. The Equal Protection Clause protection for minority educational traditions. Option D. The Necessary Clause controls over school board resolutions. The correct answer is option A, the Free Exercise Clause protection against forced patriotic rituals that violate religious conscience. Barnett is best remembered for protecting students from compelled patriotic expression, especially forced flag salutes that violate conscience. Establishment Clause analysis would focus on government religion, while equal protection would focus on unequal treatment. The FCLE clue is that the First Amendment limits compelled rituals in public schools. Question 81. Which case addressed the counting of popular votes during a presidential election, halting a state-level recount and effectively determining the outcome? Option A. United States v. Nixon, 1974. Option B. Clinton v. Jones, 1997. Option C. Bush v. Gore, 2000. Option D. Baker v. Carr, 1962. The correct answer is option C. Bush v. Gore, 2000. Bush v. Gore halted the Florida recount in the 2000 presidential election, effectively resolving the electoral outcome. It was not a campaign finance, segregation, or executive privilege case. Vote counting in a presidential election points to Bush v. Gore. Question 82. What did the Supreme Court decide regarding federal campaign finance laws in the landmark case Citizens United v. Federal Election Commission, 2010? Option A. Corporations and unions have a First Amendment right to spend unlimited independent amounts of money on political communications. Option B. Political action committees are completely banned from donating money to congressional candidates. Option C. Foreign corporations are granted identical political spending rights as domestic citizens. Option D. All political advertisements must be funded exclusively by the federal government. The correct answer is option A. Corporations and unions have a First Amendment right to spend unlimited independent amounts of money on political communications. Citizens United held that corporations and unions may spend unlimited independent funds on political communications under the First Amendment. It did not ban political action committees or give foreign corporations the same campaign rights. The key word is independent expenditures. Question 83. What is the function of a dissenting opinion written by a Supreme Court justice? Option A. To express legal disagreement with the majority decision and outline why the decision is flawed. Option B. To officially veto the majority's decision and send the case back to a lower court. Option C. To summarize the factual evidence presented during the initial trial court proceedings. Option D. To provide a non-binding policy recommendation to the executive branch. The correct answer is option A. To express legal disagreement with the majority decision and outline why the decision is flawed. A dissenting opinion explains why a justice disagrees with the majority's decision or reasoning. It does not veto the majority, retry facts, or send policy advice to the executive. Dissents can influence future legal development even though they do not control the case. Question 84. What did the Supreme Court rule in the case of Engel v. Vitale, 1962, regarding public education? Option A. Public schools must provide equal funding for religious clubs. Option B. State-sponsored, mandatory prayer in public schools violates the Establishment Clause of the First Amendment. Option C. School districts can teach religious texts as historical reference materials. Option D. Public funds can be used to purchase textbooks for private religious academies. The correct answer is option B. State-sponsored, mandatory prayer in public schools violates the Establishment Clause of the First Amendment. Engel v. Vitale held that state-sponsored prayer in public schools violates the Establishment Clause. Equal funding for clubs and textbook aid are different religion in schools issues. Government-written or government-sponsored prayer is the Engel clue. Question 85. Which document first advanced the radical idea that governments derive their just powers from the consent of the governed? Option A. The Articles of Confederation. Option B. The Declaration of Independence. Option C. The Treaty of Paris. Option D. The Federalist Papers. The correct answer is option B. The Declaration of Independence. The Declaration of Independence states that governments derive just powers from the consent of the governed. The Articles created the first national government, the Treaty of Paris ended the war, and the Federalist Papers defended the later Constitution. Consent is the Declaration's key political theory. Question 86. How does a constitutional republic differ fundamentally from a pure, unchecked direct democracy? Option A. A constitutional republic does not utilize popular voting to select any public officials. Option B. A constitutional republic protects minority rights through a supreme law that limits majority rule. Option C. A constitutional republic combines the positions of chief executive and chief judicial officer. Option D. A constitutional republic gives the legislative branch total immunity from constitutional review. The correct answer is option B. A constitutional republic protects minority rights through a supreme law that limits majority rule. A constitutional republic uses a higher law to limit majority power and protect individual and minority rights. A pure unchecked direct democracy could let a temporary majority override rights without constitutional restraint. Elections still matter, but the Constitution sets boundaries no majority may lawfully cross. Question 87. Which ideological viewpoint emphasizes minimal government intervention in both economic affairs and the personal lives of citizens? Option A. Socialism. Option B. Libertarianism. Option C. Authoritarianism. Option D. Communism. The correct answer is option B. Libertarianism. Libertarianism emphasizes individual freedom and limited government involvement in both markets and private life. Socialism and communism involve greater collective or state control over economics, while authoritarianism limits personal and political freedom. The memory cue is maximum liberty with minimal state intervention. Question 88. What piece of legislation passed in 2010 expanded health insurance coverage across the nation through individual mandates and health insurance marketplaces? Option A. The Medicare Modernization Act. Option B. The Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act, Obamacare. Option C. The Health Care Financing Act. Option D. The Children's Health Insurance Act. The correct answer is option B. The Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act, Obamacare. The Affordable Care Act expanded health insurance coverage through exchanges, subsidies, Medicaid expansion mechanisms, and insurance reforms. It is not Medicare's original creation or the 1935 Social Security system. Modern health coverage expansion points to the ACA. Question 89. Which of the following describes a key difference between a political party and an interest group? Option A. Political parties seek to control government by winning elections, interest groups seek to influence policy. Option B. Interest groups run candidates for public office, political parties strictly avoid elections. Option C. Political parties are completely illegal under the terms of the First Amendment. Option D. Interest groups have the explicit constitutional authority to veto federal legislation. The correct answer is option A. Political parties seek to control government by winning elections, interest groups seek to influence policy. Political parties try to win elections and control government, while interest groups try to influence policy from outside or alongside government. Interest groups may endorse candidates, but they are not organized primarily to run the government. The distinction is winning office versus pressuring office holders. Question 90. In McCulloch v. Maryland, 1819, the Supreme Court upheld the constitutionality of the national bank and solidified which major constitutional principle? Option A. Individual states have the right to tax federal entities. Option B. Congress possesses implied powers under the Necessary and Proper Clause, and federal law is supreme over state law. Option C. The Bill of Rights applies uniformly to state court systems. Option D. The executive branch has absolute authority over interstate trade. The correct answer is option B. Congress possesses implied powers under the Necessary and Proper Clause, and federal law is supreme over state law. McCulloch v. Maryland upheld the national bank through implied powers and confirmed that states cannot tax valid federal institutions. The case relies on the Necessary and Proper Clause and the Supremacy Clause. It rejects the idea that states can control or destroy federal operations. Question 91. What type of rule is prevented by the constitutional requirement that all federal laws must be passed by both chambers of Congress and signed by the President? Option A. Rule by administrative fiat. Option B. Absolute judicial supremacy. Option C. Unchecked majoritarian or unilateral executive lawmaking. Option D. Confederal fragmentation. The correct answer is option C. Unchecked majoritarian or unilateral executive lawmaking. Requiring passage by both chambers and presentment to the President prevents one person or one chamber from making federal law alone. It is not mainly about administrative agencies, judicial supremacy, or confederal weakness. Bicameralism plus presidential approval slows lawmaking to prevent unilateral rule. Question 92. What happens if a presidential candidate fails to secure a majority of 270 electoral votes in the Electoral College? Option A. The election is voided and a new nationwide popular vote is held. Option B. The House of Representatives chooses the president, with each state casting one vote. Option C. The sitting Supreme Court selects the winner by a secret ballot. Option D. The candidate with the most total popular votes automatically wins. The correct answer is option B. The House of Representatives chooses the president, with each state casting one vote. If no presidential candidate receives an electoral college majority, the House chooses the president with each state delegation casting one vote. The winner is not automatically the popular vote leader, and the Supreme Court does not select the president. This is the contingent election process. Question 93. What did the Supreme Court rule regarding the internment of Japanese Americans during World War II in Korematsu v. United States, 1944? Option A. It ruled that the forced relocation was completely unconstitutional and ordered immediate financial compensation. Option B. It upheld the exclusion order as a valid exercise of military necessity during a national security crisis. Option C. It declared that only non-citizens could be placed in relocation camps. Option D. It ordered the executive branch to secure congressional declarations of war before enforcing curfews. The correct answer is option B. It upheld the exclusion order as a valid exercise of military necessity during a national security crisis. Korematsu upheld wartime exclusion orders against Japanese Americans under a military necessity rationale, a decision now widely condemned. It did not order immediate compensation or limit detention to non-citizens. The case is a cautionary example of deference during national security crises. Question 94. What constitutional limit prevents a state from coining its own independent money or entering into military alliances? Option A. Article I, Section 10 Constraints on States. Option B. The 10th Amendment Reserved Powers. Option C. The Preamble Intent Statements. Option D. The Judiciary Act Mandates. The correct answer is option A. Article I, Section 10 Constraints on States. Article I, Section 10 limits state powers by barring states from coining money, making treaties, or entering alliances. The 10th Amendment reserves powers, but it does not authorize states to act like sovereign nations. State restrictions on money and foreign affairs point to Article I, Section 10. Question 95. Which article of the Constitution details the process required for the original ratification of the document by the states? Option A. Article 4. Option B. Article V. Option C. Article 6. Option D. Article 7. The correct answer is option D. Article 7. Article 7 set the process for original ratification of the Constitution by the states. Article V concerns amendments, Article 6 includes supremacy and oaths, and Article 4 concerns interstate relations. Ratification of the original document points to Article 7. Question 96. Which of the following is an example of an expressed, or enumerated, power granted specifically to Congress in Article I, Section 8? Option A. The power to establish public school curricula. Option B. The power to coin money and regulate its value. Option C. The power to grant marriage licenses. Option D. The power to issue local driving permits. The correct answer is option B. The power to coin money and regulate its value. Coining money and regulating its value is an enumerated congressional power in Article I, Section 8. Schools, marriage licenses, and driver permits are generally state or local matters. Enumerated powers are powers expressly written into the Constitution. Question 97. In Roe v. Wade, 1973, the Supreme Court ruled that a woman's right to choose an abortion was protected by what constitutional provision? Option A. The Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. Option B. The implied right to privacy protected by the Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment. Option C. The Privileges and Immunities Clause of Article 4. Option D. The Free Exercise Clause of the First Amendment. The correct answer is option B. The implied right to privacy protected by the Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment. Roe v. Wade historically grounded abortion rights in a privacy interest protected through the Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment. The question asks for the constitutional reasoning used in Roe, not later changes in abortion doctrine. Privacy and substantive due process are the key concepts. Question 98. Which Supreme Court case established the judicial doctrine of separate but equal, legally justifying state-mandated racial segregation in public facilities? Option A. Dred Scott v. Sandford, 1857. Option B. Plessy v. Ferguson, 1896. Option C. Brown v. Board of Education, 1954. Option D. Korematsu v. United States, 1944. The correct answer is option B. Plessy v. Ferguson, 1896. Plessy v. Ferguson created the separate but equal doctrine, permitting racial segregation if facilities were claimed to be equal. Dred Scott dealt with slavery and citizenship, while Brown later rejected Plessy. Segregated public facilities point to Plessy. Question 99. What is the fundamental goal of a written constitution in a democratic society? Option A. To guarantee that the economy remains free from any inflation or recession. Option B. To establish the baseline framework, duties, and limits of the government. Option C. To prevent the public from voting on complex tax amendments. Option D. To automate the judicial selection process without human input. The correct answer is option B. To establish the baseline framework, duties, and limits of the government. A democratic constitution establishes the structure, powers, duties, and limits of government. It does not guarantee economic conditions, block all tax votes, or automate judicial selection. Its main job is to set the legal framework for self-government. Question 100. Which Supreme Court ruling established the clear and present danger test to evaluate when the government can constitutionally limit political speech? Option A. Tinker v. Des Moines, 1969. Option B. Schenck v. United States, 1919. Option C. Texas v. Johnson, 1989. Option D. New York Times Company v. United States, 1971. The correct answer is option B. Schenck v. United States, 1919. Schenck v. United States created the clear and present danger test for speech during wartime. Tinker concerned student speech, Texas v. Johnson flag burning, and the Pentagon Papers case prior restraint. Draft obstruction and wartime speech point to Schenck.